Alright guys, so welcome to part 2. In continuation, so this part we're going to apply what we learned in part 1 for our needs, and that being to rig a mouth. So we're going to apply the same idea, well, not really the same idea, but we're going to use part 1 as a foundation to modify it and use it for rigging a mouth and lips and stuff like that. So basically rigging the lips. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take just the first part, right? Now in part 1, what we did was we found out how we discovered how to do this part, right? The IK part. So this part over here, right? So I'm not going to repeat how I got to this place, because just go watch part 1. So basically what we're going to do is continue. So in part 1 we did we added deformation, right? We added deformation bones and deformation curves. So in this part, what you're going to do is just delete the deformation bones and just leave the IK bones, right? So if you notice here, we just have IK bones, right? We just have these bones over here that serve as the IK. So what you're going to do is, in order to get the mouth part to work, we're going to need another set of these bones, but on the opposite end of this rig. So what we need is, we need to do the same thing. This being the right side of things, right? This is the right side. We're going to need to do the same thing we did here. We're going to need to do it also on this side, right? So we need to basically recreate this IK's chain on this side, right? So I believe this is I think this is the right side and this is the left side. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a curve, right? And then a set of bones, right? Same thing as we did here. Or you could just copy this and then post it this side and then just rearrange them. Or you can mirror these bones on this other side, right? The same thing goes for the IK set, the IK chain. Just do the same thing. So basically you're going to copy the curve and the bones on this side, right? All right, so after you do that, you're basically going to end up with something like, wait, let me go back. You're going to end up with something like this, right? I created the bones in the system ahead of time, right? You're going to end up with something like this. Let me show you what you're going to end up with. So it's basically just the same thing on what we did this side and copied it and did it on the other side. The only difference is that, let me show you guys the difference. Or the only thing you need to pay attention to, right? The only thing you need to pay attention to is the curve that you're using, right? Now, if you notice, wait, let's go back. Let me hide the rig. So if you notice, we have 2 sets of curves, right? We have this one on the right and then this one on the left, right? So now this curve over here on the right, the direction of it is moving in this direction, right? The curve direction, basically. And then this one on the left, right? This one over here, you can't see it because it's really small. The direction is moving in that direction, right? So that's why you get this effect, basically, right? That's why you're able, let me re-enable it. That's why you're able, let's go to the pose mode. That's why you're able to do this, right? So after you've reached this stage, what you need to do is now comes the deformation bones. That's the important part, right? That's the part that enables you to get that quote-unquote sliding effect that I was talking about in the last video. So what we're going to do is, the only thing you need to concern yourself about in part 2 is we have to now create the deformation bones and curve. So instead of going this way, right? Let's go back to edit mode. So instead of creating the deformation bones in in part one, what we did was we created a deformation bone system that looks something like this, right? The bones went from wait, let me go to annotation. Let me annotate in this direction, right? And then what you do is you have to, so now the assumption is that you would want to create another set of bones that are moving in this direction. That would be the assumption, right? Because if I'm telling you that you should copy what you did on the left, on the right to the left, that's what you will do, right? Yeah, makes sense. That's something that anyone would do, and then everything would be over. Then you're like, oh, okay, so I'm done. But no. So in this case, let's go to layer 2. What we're going to do is we're going to create just one chain of bones, of deformation bones, right? But before we do that, we need to create the curve that we're going to be using, right? So let's first create the curve, and then we can come back and I'll show you how I created the bone system. All right, so now let's hide the bones. All right, no, it's okay. You can leave them ahead. Oh no, let's hide them because we're working on the curves, right? Okay, so now select both of your curves, the ones that you've used, right? We need to create one uniform curve out of these curves, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate them, and then we are going to join. No, we're going to isolate those new curves that we've created, and then we're going to join them, right? Let's go to object mode, to the object menu, right, and then join. Click join. There we go. Now we have one new curve. Now you can appropriately name this curve the DEF for deformation. Okay, there we go. All right, so now what you need to do is before you do anything to this curve, you need to convert it to a mesh. So go to object mode, and then convert it into convert to mesh from curve. There we go. And now the reason being, Blender currently doesn't, as of what version is this that I'm using? Let me check. Let's check the splash. Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm using 8.3. I don't know about 9, but the current version that I'm using, you can't join curves. Well, you can join curves, but it's a bit messy. You can't merge them. So there is a workaround. So what you need to do is convert the curves into a mesh. Now we have a mesh, and then we need to merge the middle part, right? Just select all the vertices, box select all the vertices in the middle, and then you merge them. Open the specials menu and then go merge vertices by distance. There you go. And now you have one continuous mesh object. So what we're going to do is now we have to go back to object mode and convert this mesh object into a curve again, right? Go back to convert to curve from mesh. There we go. All right, so now we have what? Now we have a curve object, but it's in linear format. It's in a linear fashion. The type is linear. So what we need to do is we need to convert this into a Bezier curve with automatic control points. So the first thing we need to do is let's go to edit. Let's go into edit mode, and then go to curve, and then go to set spline type to Bezier or Bezier. I don't know how to pronounce it. My English is like a weird cross between Sub-Saharan and British. Yeah, so anyway, after you do that, then you convert these control points into, where is it? Oh, control points. We need to set the handle types to automatic. There we go. Now what we have is points that are automatic. There we go. Now after doing this, what you need to do is let's unhide our bone system. There we go. So now we back. So now what you need to do after coming back, you need to hide those two curves we used to duplicate and create this new curve. So go hide them for visual purposes, because we need to see what we're doing. And then just for visual purposes again, go into your properties and then go to geometry and then increase the depth of this curve so we can see what we're doing. Okay, there we go. So now we can see it, right? So what we need to do now is we need to go back to your bones object or armature, and then we need to go to layer. We're currently on layer 2. Let's go back to layer 1, and then let's go to the pose mode. Okay, all right. So now you select these control points over here, these smaller bones. You need to move them to layer 2 and layer 1 at the same time. I want these visible on layer 1 and layer 2. So click M and then shift select the second layer, right? And then let go. Right, so now we have them on layer 2 and then on layer 1. So there's a reason why I want them on layer 2. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna select go back to our curve, right? Go to edit mode. So now what we need to do is we need to clean up this curve, because currently we have a lot of points, and we only need points that are going to be influenced by these little bones, right? Kind of like what we did in part 1. So what we need to do is just go ahead and clean up this curve, all right, so that we're only left with a certain number of points on this row. Right now, if you count these little bones, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, on each side, on the left and the right. Or rather, no, 6 on each side and 1 in the middle. All right, so you need at least 6 points on each side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna edit this curve. Let's go and edit this curve, and basically just delete the points on, or delete the points in the middle, right? The ones that we are not gonna be able to use, because these points we need to snap them where we need to snap them here on these bones over here. So before we do that, just select the points that are not needed, basically the ones that we're not gonna need. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go. I'm not gonna need these two, these. Okay. So after you select the points you don't need, just delete them. Press X, right? And then click dissolve vertices. That way you don't lose the shape of the curve, right? By deleting some of these points, it still retains its shape. So after we do that, so now it's time to snap these points like we did in part 1 to the bone positions over here. But before you do that, go to pose mode, right? Select your bones, go to pose mode, and then click rest, and then go to your properties over here. You'll notice that your skeleton has a pose position and a rest position. Click the rest position so that we get the exact positions of these, so that we can snap the curve points to the exact positions, the rest positions of our bones. It's very important you do that, because you don't want to misalign your points to your bones when you hook them up. Okay, so let's go to object mode, go back to our curve, and then start snapping these points to the positions of our bones. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I'm probably going to be quiet while I'm doing this, but let me show you guys. But I'm sure you guys remember what we did, right? You basically just select your bone, right? Go to the endpoint. Go to edit mode. Go to the endpoint, right? And then Shift S, click cursor to selected, And then you go back to your curve points, go back to object mode, go back to your curve point, select the point you want, snap that point by using selection to cursor, keep offset. There you go. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of these other points. I'm going to shut up now. All right. Okay, so now what we need to do is basically now go back and create our bones, right? So what we need to do now is go back to our bones and create the bone system that we need, the deformation bone system. So what you need to do now is go to, we are on our second bone layer, so it's okay, we can just start from here. So what you're going to do is go back to this bone over here, the last bone on the chain, or the first bone on the chain, depending on how your naming system is, and then go to the end point of this bone and go to front view rather, and then just extrude all the way to your, in this case, right hand or left. I don't know, you guys know, but extrude to the end point of the other side, right? Then let's snap this end point over here to this end point over here. Okay, so let's do this same thing. There we go. All right, now we're done. No, we're not done. All right, so now we need to further now create a set of bones that are going to conform to this curve over here, right? So what we need to do is first subdivide this bone, right? Now you have two bones. And then after doing that, snap the middle part of this joint of these bones to the middle part over here of this control bone over here. And then cursor to select it, and then click and then snap it to it. There we go. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to basically subdivide each side, right? Now, if you notice, it's just one bone going from one direction, from one end to the other, right? So what we're going to do is then subdivide this one over here about 3 times, I think. Let's subdivide 1 and then 2. No, just 2 times. Subdivide it 2 times, right? No, 3 times. And the same thing over here. Subdivide 1, 2. Okay. So depending on how many bones you used on your rig, I used 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I mean these small little bones. I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? So in reality, I'm gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's subdivide this again. See what we have. No, it's fine. Don't do that. Okay, so now we need six bones, and we have 4 currently. So I'm gonna need 2 extra bones. So what I'm gonna do is let me subdivide this one over here. Subdivide this over here. There we go. Okay. All right. So what we need to do is now we need to snap these bones. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 6. Okay. So we can get 2 more, 1 more here. There we go. All right, so now snap these bones to their preferred positions, right? And that being these small little bones right here. Same thing we did with the curve points, just snap them there. Yeah, you can tell something's a little different on this video. I'm kind of tired. I've been doing a lot of game related production. So yeah, I just figured I'm not gonna do a perfect tutorial. I'm just gonna do a tutorial. Alright, so let's do the same thing on this side. Go. Alright, so we have all our bones the way we want them. Okay, so now what we need to do is figure out if this is good. Okay, go to pose mode. Okay, looks good. Alright, so now the thing is, what we need to do now is we need to basically we need to apply the IK spline constraint to this newly created bone system. So just like the usual, so we're just gonna add a constraint to this, and then we're gonna use our curve that we created earlier to move this set of bones. Okay, here's what we need to do. So go to the end point, or to the last bone on the chain, right? Add a constraint, add a spline constraint. Where is it? Oh, there we go. A spline IK. So go to the first bone and add a spline IK constraint. There we go. And then select the curve that you want. So what I did is I dropped here into the outliner to select it. There we go. And then I'll change the number of bones on the chain length option. And currently we have how many chains? 1, 2, 3. How many bones do we have? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's 6 on each side, I think. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm assuming it's 12. So let's do 12 if it's 6 on one side. There we go, 12. There we go. That should suffice. And then what do we do next? We gotta control the system. So what we need to do is go back to the curve, and then for now go back to object mode, get out of pose mode, and then what you need to do is we need to control the curve, basically, right? We need to control the curve. The curve will move. Oh wait, first we need to undo the, go to your bone system, go and then go to properties, and then re-enable your pose position from your rest position, because whilst you're in rest position you cannot move this in pose mode, as you can see, right? In pose mode rather, you can't move it, right? It reports an error, cannot change pose when in rest position as enabled. So disable rest position by enabling pose position. That way we can now move, right? So what I want to do is test the chain. So let's go back to our curve. There we go. And then go to edit mode, and then see if it moves right. So it's not working. It's moving the bone chain, right? So what we need to do now is basically hook these points, all these points, right, to our little controller bones over here, these little controller bones over here, right? So hook each and every point to these little controller bones. That in turn will move the curve, which will move the bone system. Okay, so what we need to do now is just go ahead and just hook them up. So I'll show you guys, I'll remind you guys how to hook these up, and then just by using one example, and then for the rest I'll just speed this video up and do the rest. So let's further move these small little bones. Let's select all of them and then move them to layer 3, right? Layer 3. Shift select, click M, and then shift select the third layer so that we can view them on the third layer also. Well, where's the middle one? The middle one is missing. Let's go to layer 2. No, it's on layer 1. Oh, okay. This middle one is still, let's move it to layer 1 and layer 2. Alright, so now we have all these bones moved to layer 3 because I want to visually see what I'm doing. So in order to hook these little guys to our curve, what we need to do is go to pose mode or edit mode, select the bone, go to object mode, and then select the curve. And then what you do is go into edit mode, go to edit mode, and then click the point that we want. And then we press Control H, right? And then hook to new object bone. Okay. Then repeat that same action for every single bone and every single point on our curve. Oh, and before I forget, don't forget to press go back to rest position. Okay, I have forgotten that for a second, but go back to rest position and then continue hooking up. Alright, so now let's move on, right? So after we do that, let's test the connections. Let's go to pose mode, then don't select it, then click pose position, and then let's try them out. Okay, seems to be working. All right, so now let's test the entire rig. Let's select layer bone number 2 and number 3. Okay, now let's select number 2 and 3 only. Okay, so now what we have is, if you look at the interactions and what's happening. Okay, if I go and lift this up and move it, what do we have? We have like a gliding thing going on over there. So that whole entire thing, there we go. All right, if we go to our IK, all right, what do we have? Wait, I see. The thing is, our deformation curve is on both layer 1 and 2. So let's move it to 2, just 2, so that we can tell the differences and what's going on. Okay, I'm gonna move this to layer 2 only. All right. Okay, so on layer 1 we have the IK system, right? Which basically moves these little bones, right? They respect the position of what they're parented to these bones over here, right? So they are moved by the IK bone, which in turn moves what? These little bones move the curve. They are hooked to the points on the curve, this curve over here, right? That does what? That moves, let's shift select, let's reveal layer bone number 2. So in turn, that moves what? That deforms the curve, right? Basically, it just deforms the curve. It doesn't stick to these positions. That's why it looks like it's sliding, right? It looks like it's sliding like that. It's a little cool. It took me a while, actually, to figure this out. It took me about 3 months just for the initial setup, and then almost another month or so just to figure out how to come up with this thing, right? Because at first glance it doesn't make any sense, right? When to think about it, I actually didn't build this rig outright. I had to think about it before I actually built it, right? Because I had to try doing like experiments and I wondered with because if you look at Maya's tools, right, the curve, whatever deform, their new curve deforming system thingy, yeah, that's basically what it is. But I couldn't pull it off without having to really think about it, because one cool thing about Blender's curve tools and rigging system is that it's juvenile sometimes, you know. It's not like 3ds Max rigging system, and some of its object properties are just very how do I say this, very from a user's perspective, they're very antiquated, basically just, I don't know, just a hassle to work with. It's a different methodology or workflow to work with. So I'm trying the same things in 3ds Max. If there are any users of 3ds Max out there, I'm actually trying to apply this same concept in 3ds Max, but the way 3ds Max handles curves is totally different, right? The way it handles bones is totally different. So I'll show you guys what I'm actually working on. Let me show you what I'm working on 3ds Max. Hold on. Alright, so I'm currently trying to recreate the same system in 3ds Max, right? And it's as you can see, it's a tad a little different, right? It's a tad different. And there you have it, right? Now you get that sliding action that I was talking about. So what you can do is basically just create the same thing for the bottom lip, right? Since it's a mouth, what you can do is create another basically you can create another chain system, right, for the bottom lip, basically, right? Bottom for the B lip, right? For the bottom lip. So what you could do is just repeat the same process, right? First you create 2 curves, right, that are going in that direction, that meet in the middle, right? And then you create your sets of bones, right? Sets of bones. And then after you create your sets of bones, create the control points, just basically the same old thing over again. And then the last part, you create a very long chain of sets of bones for deformation purposes, and then you create its own curve. So basically it's 3 curves, 2 short ones that are facing each other, and then 1 long one. That's the deformation curve, and then a set of bones. And how you set them up is what's just key. So basically your parenting and hooking style, that's what's key to the rig and the system. All right, guys, this was not easy to record. It took me a while. I only released this version because I felt like re-recording it again and again, because I wanted it to be just right. Was just gonna waste more time, so I figured I might just want to put this one out. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. If you're new, subscribe. If you haven't, but you've watched these, subscribe please. It helps the algorithm. All right, guys. See you next time.